Hey everybody, welcome back to part 2 of the piano box build. If you haven't seen the first part where we actually built the 2 boxes covering chasing the grain, miter joints, and installing runners, you might want to check out that video out first. Now I'll leave a link below in the video description for you. So in this video we will be building the lid, legs, and the partitions. Before we go on, I want to talk a little bit about miter joints. Now miter joints, as you know, are end grain to end grain joinery. Even though it's cut out of 45, it's not very strong. That's why some people add a spline to strengthen the joint like this. Now people usually do this on a table saw. One thing I want to point out is that the proportions does not look right. It's an 1/8 inch saw curve. The splines are a little bit too big and overpowers the box. Now I see some people use hand saws to cut the spline. That's a little bit too thin. What I would use is a 16-inch blade like this. You should have one of these in your blade collection. I also use this to cut ebony splines and plugs for my other projects. With the cost of ebony nowadays, this would be a 50% savings on waste. It all adds up. Now I have these in my store if you want to add that to your collection. I'll also put a link below. Now the lower box, I don't need splines because I use the bottom and the runners as internal splines. I add a little glue to the corners to help hold the miter in place. Now because I don't use external splines on the lower box, adding a spline to the upper box might look out of place. So I'm going to take a chance and leave it out. I think it should be okay with careful handling. So let's continue with the build. So for the top, I think I'm going to have it arranged this way. This will be the short one, this will be the one on top. Set the height to 1 inch, which is here below. Align this blade right up to the line. I'll put a spacer between. Now I'm going to raise the blade all the way up so the angle would be a little bit steeper. I'm going to stop shy. I can see where it is. I am just going to cut it off, the rest with a handsaw. Okay, so it's now time to make the legs so that we can round over it into little dowels that will fit in here. This will act like our little hinges. So the first pass I had an 1/8 inch round over bit in here. Now I switch over to a 3/16. So it really softens it up with a little bigger round over. Now the next thing we need to do is to make this square peg into a round hole. So you can draw a circle and use a file and file away and just make it round until it fits. Now I have a jig here that I used to make these ebony into round here. So I just basically turn it into here and I just turn it. And I have a guide here. Right down here like so. I'm going to center it like this. I'm going to clamp him down. Now this is 3/8 by 3/8. I drew a 1/2 inch hole. It's going to be a little bit tight. So what you need to do is you need to sand the corners just a little bit, just so that it will fit tight like this. So let's give it a shot. So right now I backed a bit away from it, so I want to just get it started first. Now that I got this somewhat round, I'm going to use a caliper and see how much I'm off. This is 295. So I get it down to, this is a 1/4 inch, is 250. Okay, that will get me started. I'm going to just file the rest of the way in. Ooh, nice. Oh my gosh. That's perfect. All right, so I'm gonna score this first before I don't want to have any tear out, so I'm gonna score it. Now this is pretty tight. So I have a sizing plate here. You can get these on my website. I have these made. One thing good about this one here is that I have an 1/8 inch recess and then the actual hole. This way it protects the burr, because if you rub it around like this a few times, if you don't have that recess, that burr will go away and you're just compressing the wood instead of actually cutting it. So I have a nice sharp edge in here. So I'm just going to put my 1/4 inch, which is right here, and I'm going to cut it. You can see where it's cut, so you can actually use a file, just kind of help trim it down a little bit. Score it. You can use a gouge with the same radius and just follow along. So by using the sizing plate, you can see where this needs some work. And this one is pretty much flush, so I'm going to leave this alone, but I need to trim this one down a little bit. So you can use your gouge or just use a file until that disappears. Gotta go slow and just be patient with it. I'm going to use it one more time. You gotta be real careful because you can actually break this. Now once you have the legs fitted and you're happy with it, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to trim it down a little bit, maybe have it stick out about 1/8 of an inch. I'm just going to do it with a little handsaw. So now I'm going to round over the fronts and the backs. So the box is all sanded, ready for glue up. What we want to do now is to make sure that the lid is actually flush to the back. So you can take a piece of wood like this and just put it against the back and then just move them in like that. And then we're going to clamp it. Okay, double check it so they didn't move. That's good. That's good. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move this out because I know it's right about here. I am going to put some, just a hair of glue here, just for tacking up, okay? I am going to reinforce it with some dowel pins, so I'm not going to put a whole lot of glue in there because I definitely don't want to have it squeeze out and have to clean it up. It's going to be a big mess. So I'm just going to pull this out. I know this right about here, so just a little bit of glue. I think that's all it takes. Just like that. Bring it back in. And then I want to, right here, make sure it's flat to the bottom like that. Then I'm going to do the other side. So if the pattern is correct, what I want to do is I want to make sure that the leg is actually flat on the table like this, and it should be flush right back here like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my clamp, put it right in the middle of the joint, and I'm just going to clamp it in place. Not too tight. Just like that. Now to glue up the front legs, I want the lid to be somewhat flush to the box, but I don't want it to be rubbing. So I'm just going to put a piece of paper in here. And I'm just going to hold it in place like this. And then I'm going to clamp it. Like that. So I'm going to tighten it up a little bit. Now that it's dry, I'm going to put my pattern back on here, and then I'm going to mark it where I want my brass pins to be. So I set the depth of my drill. You definitely don't want to drill through the box. So I'm going to be using some epoxy. Don't need a whole lot. It's a two-part. Now you can file this down, and if you want to take a chance like I do, here's what I do. See the pins right here? I'm going to sand the rest of the way. So to make the partitions, I'm going to be using my Forest No. 1 grind flat top blade. So the blade is set to about 5/8, and I'm going to make one pass this way and one pass this way, and I want to divide this into thirds. So now I'm going to cut the dividers to fit into the slot. Now for the dividers, I don't glue these up because I want to make these somewhat adjustable. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to build one of these, I do have plans with the cut lists and templates for the legs, partitions, available on my website. Thanks for watching, and please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.